do another session of Across the World. I should have said before that lots of the information that we use for Across the World comes from this amazing resource that Barnabas produced. So teachers, if you want to know more about this, do get in contact with me and I'll let you know more. Now, today we are going to a country in Africa. Loads of countries in Africa. Some of them are small, some are much bigger, some are better known. The country that we're going to is called Ethiopia. You might have heard of it. Ethiopia has suffered with some really bad famines in years gone by, where that means there is not enough food to eat. A famine is not having food to eat across a huge area of a country. And they've had some really difficult times. It's a very, very hot country. And the cross from Ethiopia is remembering, the Christian cross, it's remembering that story from the Bible about Jesus dying and allowing us to be friends with God. But it looks a little bit different to the traditional cross that we think of. Now it can take different forms. So this is an Ethiopian cross. This is really light. It's made of wood. It's quite a dark wood, isn't it? I don't know what kind of wood it is, I'm afraid. But you can see it's got some lovely patterns on it. And actually on this one, you might be able to spot it's got 4 crosses within that cross. So this is a wooden cross, and it's made for an individual to hold, for one person to hold on to. Not all their crosses are made out of wood, and they don't all have the same patterns. Some of their crosses are huge and are made out of metal, and they use them for processions and parades. And they can all have slightly different patterns. So I've got some different ones here to show you. Often the Ethiopian cross will have a circle in it, but not always. Often it will have other crosses within its pattern. Some of them will have lovely coloured areas like this one here. And here is one more of the metal ones. These are used very much for their parades, for their processions. And the Ethiopian cross, well, comes with a story really from the Bible. And it's a story that we read that takes place after Jesus has been killed on the cross and after he's come back to life again. And it's a story about somebody who was quite important in Ethiopia. And they were travelling along the road in their chariot. Now, maybe it would have looked a bit like this. I don't know if you can see. Your teacher might be able to get a picture up on the board for you of a chariot to remind you what it looks like. We know the Romans used chariots a lot. But you can see there's a horse here. And a chariot was a bit like a cart that was pulled along by the horses. And it was used by people who were very important. Only one set of wheels, not 2 like on a wagon or a traditional vehicle. So often used for racing as well. So this important Ethiopian was travelling along the road in his chariot. And he was reading some papers. He was reading some scriptures. They're the bits that we read about towards the beginning of the Bible, in the bit before Jesus was born, the Old Testament. And this person, who was quite important and was quite clever, knew his stuff, was kind of scratching his head a bit because he didn't really understand what he was reading. He was reading some words that said he was led like a lamb about to be killed. And he's thinking, what on earth does this all mean? Well, the Bible tells us that Philip, a man called Philip, who was a follower of Jesus, was also walking along that road. And he saw the important Ethiopian puzzling over these papers, these scriptures. And he started to explain to the Ethiopian what they meant. And he actually explained to him how the bits that he was reading about, the sheep, all of that, actually was talking about Jesus. It was foretelling that Jesus was going to come and that Jesus would be killed on a cross in order to make things right for people with God. And so this cross has a real message of hope, because Philip was able to explain things to the Ethiopian and gave him real hope that he could explain and understand. So maybe on your map today, you'll be able to colour in Ethiopia, just a little blob of colour, because this is all of Africa here, lots of countries. So just where that dot is, perhaps you could put a blob of colour on Ethiopia. And then you can maybe find the word hope and colour it in the same colour to show that that's where we're going to. This cross is from Ethiopia and it has a message of hope. Now, how are we going to make our Ethiopian cross? Oh, should tell you, this is a scarf from Ethiopia because my daughter went to Ethiopia a couple of years back to work with some children in a school, and she had an amazing time. And this is the colours on their flag as well. So how are we going to make our cross? Because obviously we can't make something amazing like this out of wood or metal. We're going to make our Ethiopian cross out of paper. And it's going to end up looking maybe like this. But because every Ethiopian cross is slightly different, it has different patterns, yours will not look the same as somebody else's. So maybe yours might look more like this one. Got different colours here. It's a little bit like making a snowflake, but you'll see that each time you're going to end up with this circle, which is often used on the Ethiopian cross. Now you're going to start off by having a sheet of paper that looks like this. And you're going to need some scissors. And what you need to do first is to cut off along the dotted lines. You don't need that bit of paper, but you do need this bit. Okay, now we're going to need to fold our paper. So you're going to fold one corner to the other to make a triangle. And you can still see this bit on the front. When you've done that, take the long edge, the long straight edge, and fold it again. So now you should end up with something that looks like that. When you're happy that you've got that, take your scissors again and cut away this shaded area. This is going to mean that we all end up with a circle in our Ethiopian cross, although they will all look a bit different. You don't need those bits, put those with your rubbish. So now it should look like this. Okay, what you're going to do now, I've buried my pencil, here it is just draw on a few shapes that you're going to cut out. So I'm just going to draw on around the edge here a couple of triangles, a couple of rectangles on the edge of my bit that I've cut away here, and I'm going to do some little circular shapes down these sides. Then hopefully you can see that. Pencil might be a bit faint. Then you're going to cut them away. Now I'm doing mine really quickly, okay? You can take a lot more time over this, hopefully. But I'm just going to cut a few shapes out of mine so we get the idea of what it's going to look like. So you can see what I've done now is I've cut some shapes away from that bit that we'd already cut out, that area. Now I'm going to cut some from down the side. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do the same on this side. 1, 2. It's just like making a snowflake. 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to open it up and see how it looks. Here it comes. Ta-da! Boys and girls, I have made my Ethiopian cross. Hopefully yours will look equally lovely as well, with a different pattern to mine on it. There's 1, there's 2. Similar but different, because each of us is individual, and the Ethiopian cross will take on different forms. Remember, this has a message of hope, and at the moment that's a really important thing for us to be remembering. Never give up hope. Things will get better.